Hello, Night 21st Century. Hello, I'm Peter Greenlaw. This is live. This is not a recording. I'm an author of four best-selling books, and I'm going to share with everyone today my best-selling book, Why Diets Are Failing Us. Hi, Stacy. Because diets are failing us. We have 80% of America overweight. We have 50% of America obese. And we have 50% of Americans that are pre-diabetic. I mean, does anyone really think that diets are working? And we're going to go over the fatal flaw. Now, here's the difference. We don't give you opinions. I've been a nutritional researcher for 21 years. I've written four best-selling books with medical doctors, 20 shows on PBS, was interviewed on the four biggest daytime shows in America, and did over 1,500 live lectures around the world before COVID. Everything I will bring you today is from our own research. It's all original. It's not copied. We've done the research over the past 21 years. So my first book, Why Diets Are Failing Us. We're going to talk also about my second book, TDOS, the TDOS syndrome, which every one of us have, and you don't even know it exists. TDOS Solutions, the solution to TDOS, and my fourth book called Your Third Brain. So why am I saying that why are diets failing us? Well, if we just look at the empirical evidence that 80% of America is overweight and 50% are obese, I think you all can see that Hi, Hana 334. So what we're going to talk about in this podcast, it's live, by the way. I'm Peter Greenlaw. I'm actually the author. You can see me on the back of the book so you know it's real. This is one of my four best-selling books, and we're going to discuss today why diets are failing us, because they are. As I said, we have 80% of America overweight, 50% obese, 50% pre-diabetic, and yet high speedy people keep just wanting to recirculate this consensus among all the influences that are telling you the only way to lose weight is to lower calories. That's been completely 100% debunked. Let me read to you from Harvard Medical School. They said, stop counting calories. They said the idea of a calorie in, calorie out when it comes to weight loss is not only antiquated, it's just wrong. They said what we need to concentrate on is what's in the calorie, not how many calories we're consuming. See, the enemy is not calories. Let me be clear. The enemy is not the calorie. All the calorie is a measurement. It's the amount of heat it takes to raise a gram of water 1 degree Celsius. Aha. But what matters is what's in the calorie, the actual nutrition. And that's where all these diets fall so far short. Because Bob Roberts, Sue. So when you look at diets, really what you're doing, think about it. You're really lowering the quantity of the food you're consuming. And because food contains nutrition, which is the only thing our body runs on, our body doesn't run on calories, our body runs on nutrition. So when you lower the amount of food you're consuming, you lower the amount of nutrition. Well, how does your body react? It goes in starvation mode. It prevents you from burning fat and immediately turns to your muscles for fuel. And as it breaks down the muscles into carbohydrates for fuel, it doesn't have a choice because it's so inefficient to do that. It slows down your metabolism. That's why you plateau on diets, and that's why you come off the diet and you gain everything back. Let me read from another big study in here. They said 66 and 2/3 of people who go on any form of calorie restriction, calorie lowering diets gain back more weight than they lost. That's really what's going on. See, you think it's your fault that, it was the wrong diet. I did paleo, it didn't work, but I'm going to try keto now. Oh, wait a minute, this new thing, time-restricted eating, where you don't eat for 16 hours and you eat for 8. Well, I'm going to show you the medical proof of big medical journals that are really taking on these diet regimens. The diet people aren't doing it. It's independent, like the New England Journal of Medicine, Journal of the American Medical Association, the Obesity Journal, et cetera, et cetera. We're just in this sort of dark hole where everybody just keeps thinking that the only way to lose weight is to lower calories. For those people, I'm going to put on the screen here, new health conversation. Yeah. So for anyone out there who's listening that wants to come on, this is a podcast. It's the New Health Conversation podcast, and we're discussing today the book, Why Diets Are Failing Us, because they are. There's no doubt about it. Hello and welcome, everybody. If you're on one of the other social media platforms, I'd love to have you put something in the chat. But today we're going to show you unequivocal medical proof why diets are failing us. Nothing we share with you is our opinion. My opinion, our opinion, it shouldn't mean anything to you. What should matter there are 7 new peer-reviewed human trial studies. We're going to talk about those in just a minute. Hello, Jula, I think it is. I probably pronounced your name wrong. I apologize. So I'm Peter Greenlaw. I'm actually the author. This is live. It's not a recording. We're going to talk about my book, Why Diets Are Failing Us. Because they are. Because we got 80% of America overweight now and 50% are obese. I mean, I'd love to have you put in the comments, Jola, if name a diet that's not some form of lowering calories. And you'll notice there, I put in the chat for you, the New Health Conversation is a free medical website where you can go to it. You can see everything I'm going to talk about that we write about in our 4 best-selling books. This is the one I'm concentrating on today, Why Diets Are Failing Us. Now, here's why diets are failing us. The whole concept, and again, if you know of any diet that's not some form of lowering calories, please let me know what it is. But see, the fallacy in that is the human body does not know what a calorie is. All a calorie is a measurement. It's the amount of heat it takes to raise a gram of water 1 degree Celsius. So the reason diets fail is when you go on a diet, what you're really doing is reducing the amount of food you're consuming. But what they never tell you is what you're also reducing is nutrition. And when you reduce nutrition, your body goes in starvation mode. It prevents you from burning fat. And then what happens is your body, to survive, goes to our muscles for fuel. And in so doing, 2 of the most unhealthy things you could ever do to yourself happen. Number 1, you slow down your metabolism. That's the rate you burn calories, right? So that's why you yo-yo on diets. So you lose the weight, but it comes crashing back, okay? Over and over and over again. And then you think it's the wrong diet. So you do paleo, or do you keto, or you do whatever it might be, right? And the thing is, imagine there are 7, we write about them in our books, 7 new peer-reviewed studies. Listen to this. Men and women who weren't allowed to exercise lost as much weight in 7 days as 8 weeks of any diet. They lost as much weight in 30 days as a year on any of these diets. And nothing was water, no loss of water. And instead of losing lean muscle, which I just explained to you happens on every diet, the people with no exercise, men and women, gained 6 to 9% lean muscle mass. Despite, like I said, they lost as much weight in 30 days as a year on any other diet that's been studied. I know it sounds too good to be true, but you can go to the website. It's free. Hi, Janet. You can see down at the bottom the New Health Conversation. This is what we're talking about, Janet. Why diets are failing us. And why do we continue to listen? I don't think they're trying to harm you. I think they're telling you what they know, that the only way to lose weight is to lower calories. Well, the culprit is not the calorie. What the culprit is, what matters is not the calories or the amount of calories. What matters is what's in those calories. What's the nutrition? What's the nutritional value? There's your downfall to every diet out there. Listen, the researchers who did these studies, 80% women, 20% men, no one allowed to exercise. But can you even imagine? Most women lose a whole dress size in 7 days. I mean, I know it sounds crazy. And it's safe. That's the other thing. And they have medical proof. They did blood, stool, urine, and fat analysis. They were shocked, these researchers. They were completely shocked by these outcomes, as you would be. And here's the thing. You can go to that website. Not only is it free to go there, but if you like what you see, the medical proof, there's nothing to buy there. Like my books, I don't sell my books on that website. That website is kind of sacred. It's medical proof. I don't want people to I don't want you to believe me. I've been a nutritional researcher for 21 years. I've written 4 best-selling books with MDs. I've done 20 shows on PBS and lectured 1,500 times all over the world. You know, that doesn't mean anything for 20 of my 21 years. The medical community, zero, until these new medical studies that have come out that I promise you will obsolete every diet you've ever known about, you've been on, etc. Can anyone put in the chat, can you tell me a diet that's not some form of lowering calories? What would it be? So let's take a look now at the medical proof. Let's first look at a 12-month study. New England Journal of Medicine, okay? They did this study. And they had one group of people, they put them on basically all the diets that are low calorie. And the other group of people, they put them on this, there's a new rage now, time-restricted eating. You be the judge if you think it works. 12 months. So they said the people who did time-restricted eating for those doing calorie-restricted diets in a year's time lost 16 pounds. That's in a year, ladies and gentlemen, in 12 months. Those doing time-restricted eating in a year, 12.6 pounds in a year. But then they go on in the study to say both the calorie reduction group and those doing time-restricted eating lost up to 40% of their lean muscle mass. There's your Achilles heel. There's your downfall to every diet any of you have ever been on, you've heard about, etc. See, here's the sad part. If you're on a diet right now, do you really think in 6 months or a year you're going to weigh less than you are now? What's so interesting about these studies, see, a peer-reviewed human trial study is on human beings, number one, but they take a long time. They cost a lot of money. The people in these studies who lost the weight have now kept it off for more than 2 years. See, the protocol that the researchers call this R2M, you know what that stands for? Race to maintenance. That's the whole key. But the key is not to get the weight off people, but to show them how to keep that weight off long term. Doesn't that sound, aren't you a little bit curious? Now, I know people are skeptical and they won't go to the website thinking, we will not contact you if you go to that website. I promise you. We don't need to. We rely on the science. And what will you see on the website? The medical studies, both of this new protocol where people are losing as much weight in 7 days as 8 weeks of any diet, and 3 big studies, like I stated, one of them already, New England Journal of Medicine, Journal of the American Medical Association, showing you the real evidence behind all these diets that are out there, because they're all the same. At the end of the day, like I said, I'm still waiting, just got here. What's the website? Okay, sorry. It's right here. The New Health Conversation. I'm going to put it down there right at the bottom. It'll be right under your name, the New Health Conversation. And understand, I suppose it's laser fog, cyber wolf. Oh, cyber. So anyway, look, here's the thing that I want everyone to understand. We're not trying to trick you. We're scientists. We're researchers. But we believe that what's happening is a catastrophe in this country and the world. We have 80% of America overweight, 50% obese, 50% in this country pre-diabetic. Worldwide, they're now saying that 1 billion people worldwide are clinically obese, making obesity the leading form of disease. They said this is their estimate, by 2048, listen to this. They're saying 100% of America is going to be overweight. I had someone challenge me on that. Oh, no, that's not right. I'm just telling you the research. See, you'll notice there it says researcher of researchers. That's a good title for me. I'm the researcher who did the research, and we bring it to you for free. That's why that website is really for us. It's safe. But if you go there and you like what you see, at the bottom it says schedule a free consultation. Free, no tricks, with one of our coaches. Because we don't know, maybe you want to gain weight, maybe you want to lose weight, maybe you got some medical challenges. You're young, we got people we have children 2 years old doing this, and grandma's 90. Those are all different approaches. But the fundamental point was this. The researchers are the top weight loss researchers in the world for 38 years. They've done over 150 studies, thousands of people. And they're the ones that created this. It was a theory. They put it together because for 38 years, they saw people, unfortunately, 3 things happened. Everybody on every diet they were on. Number one, everybody lost weight, didn't matter what the diet was. Keto, paleo, Mediterranean. I don't have to go through them all. You know the routine. But number 2, every case, people lost up to 40% of their lean muscle. Number 3, people every time, almost every person gained back at least as much as they lost or more. How much longer are we going to continue with this charade? That's basically what it is. I mean, we're redefining the definition of insanity. So we go to Barnes & Noble. I love Barnes & Noble. My books are actually in there. But wait till you see how many diets there are. If any of those diets work, number one, on their own, they would want a peer-reviewed human trial study. These researchers on their own, they don't sell anything. They don't work for a company. Their goal in 38 years was, can we find something where to deal with this obesity pandemic and people's health as a consequence of being obese? You know, Harvard Medical School said that being obese contributes to about 40 different diseases. This is really sad. And I'm not going to discourage any of you or disparage anybody on social media. If you want to follow them, go for it. But I would just ask you several things. One, are they showing you any medical proof at all about what they're claiming? Number one. Number 2, do they have they don't have any medical proof, so why would they have a medical website? And number 3, do they personally, are you able to do a live personal consultation with them, not comments back and forth on social media? Not that that's a problem, but the reason that we do that, we don't know anything about you. What if you do want to gain weight, you want to lose weight, whatever it might be? So my point is that there's another huge reason why diets are failing us. Okay, so for some of the new people coming on, why are diets failing us? Because the whole concept of dieting by, lowering calories. Well, let's hear Harvard Medical School. Stop counting calories. The idea of a calorie in, calorie out is not only antiquated, it's just wrong. They said we need to change the narrative and concentrate on what's in the calorie, not how many calories we're consuming. Well, that's what I wrote about in this book, which came out actually in 2010. 14, we've had 2 or 3, additions to the book. That was our whole point. Why are you counting calories when the body doesn't know what a calorie is? The body's not counting calories. Ha. But what the body keeps track of is nutrition. So it's not how many calories or a calorie itself. It's what's in the calorie that matters. Does that make sense to all of you? And there's this big misconception that, well, I'll eat organic and I'll eat whole foods and I'm going to be okay. So, sad to say. Now, here's the next thing this is a real issue. This is a medical syndrome, new medical syndrome. T for toxicity, chemicals. D for nutritional deficiency, O for being overweight, and S for stress. It's a registered trademark U.S. Patent Office, a new medical syndrome that you and me and everybody in the world has. What's happening to us, we are breathing and drinking and eating chemicals, whether you know it or not. To give you an idea, right now we're all, including me, are breathing in the fumes from the coal-fired power plants, the mercury, the cadmium from China from a couple of weeks ago. Right now, every breath we're taking. So our body, in order to protect us, because the immune system can't deal with herbicides and pesticides and Scotchgard and Teflon and flame retardants and all these things that are in our modern world. So as we ingest them, the body, to protect us, takes that chemical and stuffs it inside our visceral fat. That's the fat around your organs. Your outer layer of fat's called adipose, or a fancy name for it, subcutaneous. But it's the fat right underneath the skin. Underneath that, the hard fat, that's the visceral fat. And the medical evidence is clear. We're storing the chemicals inside those fat cells. That's why people complain to me all the time and say, it's not just that I'm overweight, but it's the amount of fat that I have on my body. Well, we're evolving as a species. I'm going to prove it to you in a moment. We are literally evolving as a species to do what? To store chemicals in those fat cells. Do you know in the 7 peer-reviewed studies, let's review that again. 80% women, 20% men, no one allowed to exercise. And yet they lost as much weight in 7 days as 8 weeks of any diet ever studied. And in a month, they lost as much weight as it took people a year to lose with no loss of water. And they didn't lose any lean muscle like was the case on every other diet. They gained 6 to 9% lean muscle mass. But also in a month, blood pressure, blood sugar, cholesterol, triglycerides all came down dramatically in 30 days, as well as inflammation, which is the underlying cause of every disease out there. It came down 25% in 30 days. Hunger came down 41% in a month. I'll explain that to you in a moment. And in 8 weeks, remember the visceral fat that where we're storing the chemicals? So as the chemical comes in, think of a balloon, the fat cell expands. Well, they shrank those fat cells by 33% in 8 weeks with no exercise. No diet has done anything like this. And I don't want to be harping on, I'm just telling you that there is so much evidence now, way more than when I wrote this book 14 years ago, that we're just kidding ourselves. We're going on these diets. We see celebrity endorsements. There's, a new one every week. There's all these things, But here's the tale of the tape. This is a huge study that was done by the Journal of the American Medical Association, one of the top journals in the world. What they did, they looked at 48 different studies, 7,286 people. And they tracked those people for 12 months. And at the end of 12 months, when they compared the most amount of weight loss on whatever diet it was to the least amount of weight loss in a year, it was 10 ounces in a year. The total weight loss across the board average was 16 pounds in a year, but up to 40% of what people lost, didn't matter what the diet was lean muscle mass. And why does that happen? Because when you lower the quantity of food and you lower, because you haven't taken nutrition into account, you now have less nutrition. When you have less nutrition, the body goes in starvation mode, stops you from burning fat, and turns to your muscles for fuel. You'll see all this. If you go to that website, So Yvonne, I'm going to explain that to you in a moment, I promise, okay? The new health, I'm just showing you the free website where you can go and see, because what I'm going to explain to you now is, for all of you, I understand that you want to know, okay, what did they do? How did they do it? So, like I said, these are the top weight loss health researchers in the world for 38 years. In those 38 years, they figured out what didn't work. What didn't work was putting people on diets by lowering the quantity of food and ignoring the nutrition. So their fundamental principle was we couldn't drop below the nutrition the body needed. Was it possible to lower the amount of food they consumed, but to maximize actually the nutrition? So they didn't drop into that starvation mode. How did they accomplish it? Well, first let's talk about what did they consume in the medical studies. First of all, they created a list that people could take to the grocery store: fats, carbs, proteins, fruit, etc. But only 40% of what people were consuming in the studies came from, domestic United States sources. Here was the key. They found 5 foods that, well, they didn't find it, but there were resource companies that over the last 25 years, fulfillment companies, a better word to say it, that had gone all over the world. They'd gone to Russia, Mongolia, Manchuria, to Tibet, and the Himalayas, South America, New Zealand, to find 5 food groups with massive amounts of nutrition. So the key was, when they brought these other 5 foods in, they were able to lower the quantity, the amount of food they were consuming, but they actually increased the amount of nutrition. I know it sounds like an oxymoron. That's what they did. Then they invented 2 different ways of consuming the food. One is called protein pacing. Nothing to do with like time-restricted eating or fasting or any of that kind of stuff. What they had people do essentially was pretty much have protein every 3 or 4 hours over the course of 12, 14, 15 hours over the course of a day. But here's the thing that was different. 40% of the protein they had people ingest was from domestic sources like steak, chicken, liver, fish, etc., from this country, okay? Grass-fed beef, whatever, all right? But this is probably something that'll okay, so let me explain to you, why did protein pacing work? Because the key to protein, the key to consumption of protein, they'll tell you, hey, have 120 grams of protein in a day. You think you're getting 120 grams of protein. Nothing could be farther from the truth. All protein is like the walnut shell. It's what's inside the protein are the 20 amino acids. 9 are called essential. You have to get them from your diet. You don't have a choice, right? And those amino acids are called the building blocks of life. They're one of the most important things why we're alive as human beings, okay? So you would think you ingest 120 grams of protein, you're getting 120. No, you're not. In Europe, they developed a test. When you ingest protein, they can tell you of the 20 amino acids, what percentage from 0 to 100 are being absorbed or used by the body. Well, shockingly, vegetable proteins have an absorption of only 10% of 100. Sorry, my vegan friends. Don't get mad at me. I'm just a scientist. All animal proteins, steak, chicken, liver, fish, etc., were 30% absorption of the amino acids. So let's say you ingested 120 grams of protein from a cow, chicken, fish, whatever. You're only really utilizing 36 grams, and the other almost 90 grams is turned into toxic waste. They actually have a name. They're called nitrogen catabolites that the kidneys have to get rid of. So God forbid you have a friend or anybody on kidney dialysis. They don't want pretty much to have any protein at all. And yet, without protein, you can't get the amino acids, so it becomes this vicious cycle. So these researchers found a protein source where the absorption was 91%. Aha, but it didn't stop there. The other 5 foods also contain the other thing we're the most deficient in. Are called, there's 2 things we're deficient in. Trace ionic minerals. You've all heard of iron, calcium, magnesium. You also hear the term chelated mineral, not even in the same category with the trace ionic mineral. There are 70 that the experts say we need. 70. In the best organic whole foods, whatever you're getting 15 to 20 out of 70 minerals. You see, again, what I'm talking about. So before, when they were putting people on diets by lowering the amount of food that already was nutritionally compromised, then they triggered the starvation mode in the body. But these researchers, what did they find? They're able to give people all 70 minerals. They gave them a 91% absorption of amino acids, but it didn't stop there. The Lancet has said, this is important, you hear this, that right now they're estimating 1 billion people worldwide are clinically obese, making obesity the leading form of malnutrition in the world. They went on to say most people don't understand that being undernourished or obese are the leading forms of malnutrition because people aren't getting the right amount of minerals, vitamins, botanicals, and the calories that we need to make us healthy. So imagine an obese person is malnourished. There was a big study done on obese children. Do you know that 30% of the people in the study had rickets and scurvy, which are diseases of malnutrition? This is what's going on, everyone. I mean, just you can believe it or not. So the researchers were adamant. They had to find different sources to ensure they were going to meet the minimum nutrient requirements, and they went above it. So 40% of the food from the grocery store, but these other 5 foods, that was the key that you can't buy at a regular grocery store, right? Then they had 2 different ways of consuming the food. The first one is called protein pacing, which I just went over with you. But remember, that protein was only 40% domestically, and the other 60% was this protein source that not only had the 91% of aminos, and it also had what was I saying? I lost my train of thought. It also contained, the 91% absorption of amino acids, the 70 minerals. In addition, it was the only source that exists almost that had 100% natural vitamins in it, not synthetic. Right now, 80-90% of the vitamins you're taking are synthetic. And there's a big, people have this gene called MTHFR. And if you take a synthetic vitamin, basically it's a B vitamin derivative that's called cobalamin, that causes a reaction. In over 50% of the people apparently have this gene that triggers that. Well, they found a source, 100% naturally occurring vitamins. So now you had the vitamins and the minerals. Oh, one of the things you should know about vitamins. If you take a vitamin without a mineral, I don't mean to be gross, you're just paying for expensive urine. Body can't use vitamins without minerals. So this was part of why this thing was so successful. So they did protein pacing, and then the last thing they did was something called intermittent nutritional fasting, not time-restricted eating. On those days, no food from the grocery store, and those foods, 4 of the 5 foods from around the world, they consumed on those days. And again, what was the outcome? People lost as much weight in 7 days as 8 weeks of any diet. They lost as much weight in 30 days as a year on any diet. They lost no water weight and gained 6 to 9% lean muscle. Now, some of you are puzzled. Well, wait a minute. How could they possibly do that? Well, one of those 20 amino acids, more specifically, one of the 9 essential amino acids called leucine, that's how you make muscle in your body. So think about it. They were getting 91% of leucine. Now, the researchers aren't against exercise, but they had to isolate it. Otherwise, they wouldn't have known what would this do. You have to understand, the researchers, they had no idea what this was going to do. It was a theory. Pretty simple. If we could lower the quantity of food, but basically maintain the amount of nutrition that we need, what would happen in the body? What happened in the body was unbelievable, right? Because they also did blood, stool, fat, and urine analysis for the second thing I'm going to explain to you that will be hopefully eye-opening. So every one of us, including me, including you, including every person in the world, has this new medical syndrome. Toxicity driven by deficiency of nutrition, overweight, and stress. It's a registered trademark U.S. Patent Office. They recognize it as a medical condition. These chemicals that we're breathing and drinking in, listen to what the experts are now saying about this, because you need to understand it wasn't until late 2005 that Mount Sinai Medical School in New York did the first study on human beings if we were storing chemicals in our body. You and me, you're storing them right now. The average adult on here, you'll have between 1,000 and 1,500 chemicals stored inside your visceral fat. No diet has ever touched this until now. Well, this isn't a diet. But listen to what the experts are saying. The Endocrine Society, the largest organization of experts devoted to research on hormones and the clinical practice of endocrinology, reports the rise in the incidence of obesity matches the rise in the use and distribution of industrial chemicals. That's not Peter Greenlaw's opinion. They go on to say, oh, by the way, they gave these chemicals a name. They call them obesogens. That doesn't sound good, does it? They said, simply put, obesogens are chemicals that disrupt the function of our hormonal system, leading to weight gain and many of the diseases that curse the American populace. They enter our body in a variety of sources, from natural compounds in soy, hormones fed to animals, plastic pollutants, chemicals added to processed food, and pesticides sprayed on produce. They act in a variety of ways, mimicking hormones and essentially reprogramming us to gain weight. What are you doing about obesogens? Did you even know obesogens? Do you understand? Paleo, keto, Mediterranean, time-restricted eating, carnivore, no impact. No study has ever shown them removing an ounce of a toxin from our body. These researchers, well, through blood, stool, and urine and fat analysis, they proved this is removing herbicides and pesticides and Scotchgard and Teflon and also, believe it or not, plastics from the body. The main reason, this sounds crazy, the main reason to do this is not to lose weight. I know that's the big, it's like, I'm going to go on a diet, I'm going to lose weight. But what kind of weight are you losing? Because all the studies point that up to 40% or even 50% in many cases of the weight you're losing on any form of diet where you're lowering calories is your lean muscle mass. It's not that's period. And you have to understand when you do that. So yes, you're losing weight, but it's so unhealthy because your lean muscle mass is responsible for what? Your metabolism, the rate at which you burn calories. See, people don't understand there's two different kinds of metabolism. One, when you're working out and running and all that kind of stuff. But the most important one is 23 hours a day, called your basal metabolic rate. That's the rate at which you burn calories. Like right now, if you're just watching this podcast or you're sleeping, that's the critical part. It's not up for debate. That slows down. And then what the body has to do, it also impacts your own immune system. What? Yeah, losing lean muscle mass is a major impact on compromising your own immune system. Now, another expert, listen to what he says. Frederick von Saul, professor of biological science, University of Missouri, Columbia. Obesogens are by hijacking the regulatory system that controls body weight. That backs up what they said. But listen, he goes on to say this. This presence of obesogens is the first reason that traditional dieting methods have become outdated. Never before have traditional low carbohydrate, low calorie diets been forced to accommodate for this level of synthetic chemicals and the adverse effects they have on the body. The body's attempt to protect itself from the constant assault of synthetic toxins results in the production and storage of fat. Again, what are you doing about obesogens? Any of you? Jojo, I'm very sorry to tell you, total nonsense, okay? Calorie deficit does not work. Let's look at Harvard Medical School. The idea of a calorie in, calorie out when it comes to weight loss is not only antiquated, it's just wrong. They say we need to concentrate on what's in the calorie nuts. See, that's the old dogma, Jojo, unfortunately. Lowering calories and ignoring what's in the calorie it doesn't work long term. If we have 80% of America overweight and 50% obese and 50% pre-diabetic, are you trying to tell me diets work? I wrote the definitive book. I was on PBS 20 different times. I've appeared on the 4 biggest daytime shows in America, did over 1,500 lectures all over the world. And I'm not the researcher. I'm the researcher of the researchers. These researchers who have looked at every form of lowering calories, every form, okay, they prove that lowering calories is one of the most unhealthy things you can ever do. I'm going to show this. I'm going to show you the free website. You can go and see the medical proof. Jojo, I don't give you opinions. When I'm talking about calorie deficit, okay, let's look at Harvard Medical School again. This is New England Journal of Medicine, 12-month study, lowering calories, one group. The other group did time-restricted eating. It's a code word, really, for lowering calories, where you don't eat for 16 hours, you eat for 8. Okay, so Jojo, what did they find in 12 months? After 12 months, the people who did calorie-restricted diet lost, in 12 months, 16 pounds in a year. People who did time-restricted eating did worse. They lost 12.6 pounds. But right in the study, both the people, both the group with lowering calories and those doing time-restricted eating lost up to 40% of their lean muscle mass. Yeah, calorie deficit, you will definitely lose weight on any calorie deficit. But every study shows up to 40% of what you're losing is your lean muscle. And then people gain all the weight back. But listen, the weight gain back, 80% is fat. It's not an opinion. The difference, I don't give people opinions. I don't want you to believe me. None of you. Don't believe me. But do you believe science? You can go to that website. You'll see. Oh, I didn't post it. I'm sorry. Someone said post the website. There you go, the new health conversation. Here's what's on the website. 7 peer-reviewed studies of this new protocol. All I can tell you is, Jojo, people on this were not allowed to exercise. Men and women lost as much weight in 7 days as 8 weeks of any of these diets. They lost as much weight, actually 16 pounds in a month, that took people a year on calorie deficit diets. But unlike the calorie deficit diets where people lost 40% of the lean muscle, these people weren't allowed to exercise, and yet they gained 6 to 9% lean muscle mass. No calorie deficit has produced anything like that. I mean, it's just, this is the mantra that we hear. Oh, the only way to lose weight is to lower calories. Really? When Harvard here's another big study. They said 66 2/3 of people who go on any form of calorie restricted or lowering diet gain back more weight than they lost. You can believe whatever you want, Jojo. Go for it. It doesn't work. But the other thing you're not even taking into account is these chemicals that we're storing in. No diet deficit has ever been proven to remove an ounce of toxins from our body. I mean, this is what we're doing to ourselves. And I don't fault the influencers. My God, there's medical doctors, there's chiropractors, there's dietitians, there's nutritionists, there's workout people, there's weight loss coaches. But do any of them show you one shred of medical evidence? Like when you're talking about calorie deficit to lose weight? Yeah, the evidence is it doesn't work. Unless you think the goal is to lose 40% of your lean muscle mass and then gain all the weight back. And here's the other thing the experts say. For every pound of lean muscle you lose, even if you go to the gym and you work out, it takes you 12 months to regain it. So let's say someone loses 20 pounds on a diet. Let's take 40% of that as 8 pounds. That don't take you 8 years to regain that. Why do you think people are yo-yoing? Because as you continue to decrease your lean muscle, because your body's starving. It doesn't have enough nutrition. It doesn't care about calories. Well, calorie, it's just a measurement. It's the amount of heat it takes to raise a gram of water 1 degree Celsius. That's it. There's nothing more, nothing less. So the whole idea is you have an opportunity. If you want, you can go to that website, the New Health Conference. It's totally free. You can't buy any of my books there. We don't do that. We just have the medical proof. Both the medical proof on this new protocol, which is called R2M, by the way. R2M stands for Race to Maintenance. And studies in the New England Journal of Medicine, in the Obesity Journal, and in the Journal of the American Medical Association of traditional diets and the real results. See, it doesn't, we're relying on opinions of these well-meaning people. I know someone right now who just spent $16,000 in $16,000, and in 6 months, one of these programs, she lost 16 pounds in 6 months. I just told you that in the studies, with no exercise, the average weight loss for men and women was 16 pounds in a month. And it's no $16,000. Basically, what you're doing is you're using is 16 minutes. 40% of the food's coming from the grocery store, and the other 60% is coming from these 5 foods around the world that, doesn't have anything to do with calorie deficit. Calorie deficit is, again, Harvard Medical School. Stop counting calories. This is Harvard Medical School, not my opinion. The idea of a calorie in, calorie out when it comes to losing weight is not only antiquated, it's just wrong. They're saying we have to change the narrative. We have to change the approach and concentrate on what's in the calorie, not how many calories we're consuming. I don't care. Look, if it's just about calorie deficit, okay, Jojo, if you're still on, let's have fun with this. So let's say I agreed with you, we're going to lower calories to lose weight, let's say to 1,500 calories a day. If all that mattered was lowering the calorie, I want all of you to listen to this. We landed on 1,500 calories, and we got two different approaches. Behind door number one is chicken, lean, salads, whatever, 1,500 calories. Remember, they're telling you the only way to lose weight is to lower calories, right? So we're both at 1,500, but the second diet is just 1,500 calories, so equal. But that diet is based on what? 3 bags of M&Ms. Do you see the absurdity of counting calories to lose weight? Really, because the human body doesn't know what a calorie is. So let's be honest. What a diet is reducing the amount of food you're consuming. And who's telling you, who's even bringing it up, that when you're lowering the quantity of your food, you're lowering the amount of nutrition? My God, these researchers, they're the top weight loss researchers in the world for 38 years. They did 150 studies on every calorie reduction diet. Because can anybody name a diet, put it in the chat, that's not some form of lowering calories? This time-restricted eating thing, it's you don't eat for 16 hours, you eat for one of the most unhealthy things you could do, by the way, on the planet. But other than that, it's great. I just told you that the New England Journal of Medicine, they did a 12-month study on time-restricted eating compared to lowering calories. The people that lowered calories in a year lost 16 pounds in a year. Those doing time-restricted eating only lost 12.6 pounds in a year. And it said both the people lowering calorie group lost 16 pounds in a year, but both those lowering calories and those doing time-restricted eating ended up losing 40% of their lean muscle mass. It doesn't matter what study you look at. There's a big study in nutrients on low carbohydrate diets. Do you know that low carbohydrate diets, they proved, are a leading contributing factor to osteoporosis? What? Yeah. You can believe whatever you want. If you want to believe opinions, I'm not going to talk you out of it. It's not going to change my life. I've spent 21 years of my life as a nutritional researcher. I have written these 4 best-selling books, all with medical doctors, some of the top people in the world. But for 20 years, that didn't mean anything in the medical community. Why? Because there were no peer-reviewed human trial studies. Not on mice or rats, nothing against mice or rats. But in medicine, the highest you can go in medical evaluation are peer-reviewed human trial studies. Well, there's 7 of them. And for those who don't understand, why is a peer-reviewed human trial study such a big deal? Because what happens, the researchers in this case, they submitted their work to 7 of the biggest journals in the world. And before those journals will publish the work, they evaluate, is it worthy of publication? And then the journal, like the Obesity Journal or Nutrition Journal or Frontiers, in nutrition, they don't do the analysis. They send it out to other world-class experts, medical doctors and researchers. That's what the term peer review means. So they're sending it out to world-class experts who have one job, by the way, to discredit what you're trying to say in your study. See, if the journal, like the Obesity Journal, if they did the analysis right away, there'd be prejudice involved. But the journal relies on their credibility for these peer reviews. So when the peer reviews come, and here's why you won't see the diet companies on their own doing it. Do you think people would be excited about going on paleo or keto and losing 16 pounds in a year and 40% of what they're losing is lean muscle? Well, one of the diets that was evaluated is the Mediterranean, the number one, the gold standard in weight loss. You can look it up. For 7 years in a row, number one diet, U.S. News and World Report. In the study, we write about it in here, it was in 8 months, people lost 10 pounds. In 8 months. And up to 40% of what they lost was lean muscle mass. And a year later, the people gained back all their weight. And that's the gold. That's our gold standard. That's what we look to. Really? I mean, if you want to count calories and think it works, you're certainly entitled to that. All I know is that 550. There's where we are. 550 years ago, about the smartest people in the world said what? That the world's flat. What are all the medical experts, what are they all saying now, before this, of course, is that the only way to lose weight is to lower calories. I thought the same thing. But these researchers said, wait a minute, they're the top in the world, so it's not like they're in 10th place. These are the top people. And they said they basically were looking for the silver bullet for weight loss and health if it existed. And that's why they did what they did. This wasn't some company. This was a theory that they felt that the key was, could we reduce the quantity of the food people were ingesting, but not decrease the amount of nutrition? That's exactly what they did. And the way they had people consume it with protein pacing, which basically they were having protein every 3 or 4 hours over the course of about 12, 14 hours over the course of a day, nothing to do with like time-restricted eating. And then something called intermittent nutritional fasting. No, I didn't misspeak. Not time-restricted eating, not fasting, nothing to do with that. And again, the problem is envision futures. I've had this question over and over again, okay? Thermodynamics, the human body is not a closed system. It's an open system. I've had validation from the top, because I've had this question like 4 or 5 or 6 times. Thermodynamics, it refers to a closed loop system. The human body is an open, it's not a closed loop. So thermodynamics does not apply here, okay? Again, let me put up the website. And again, Envision, you can go there and see, or not my opinion, the new health. It's free to go there, and you can see the medical trials yourself. The point is that is the plant-based healthy eating? No, Kit Kat is, again, see, you're still in this mindset of somehow smaller portions. No, the problem with that is you're reducing the amount of nutrition in your body. Great. Is plant-based healthy? Okay, let me give you the good and the bad about plant-based for all of you. So one of the keys to life are called the building blocks of life. Those are called amino acids. Maybe some of you heard the term. There are 20 that are available inside of any protein. From a plant protein, whoops. Sorry about that. I dropped the camera. Okay, sorry about that. Little technical issue there. I don't know what the heck happened. But anyway, the point being that, let me bring that back up. Okay, we're back on track. The point is that the philosophy of lowering calories has been discredited pretty much across the board, from Harvard Medical School to the Journal of the American Medical Association, et cetera, person after person after person. Debbie, bodybuilders count calories. Yeah, I know they do. I'll check it out. That's interesting. Iran, can you just... Okay, so the first problem, Debbie, is we don't know anything about you. Do you want to gain weight? Do you want to lose weight? Are you on any medication? And you see, but let me go back to the plant-based. I didn't quite finish. And then I promised, Debbie, I'll get back to your question. Great question. But it's back to plant-based. The keys to life are the 20 amino acids. Well, 9 of they're called essential. You have to get them. So when you ingest protein from a plant or an animal, you get all 20 amino acids, you think you're happy, great. And you'll hear these people tell you, well, ingest 120 grams of protein in a day. Completely nonsense now, because of a new study in Europe from about 8 years ago called net nitrogen utilization. In English, it means when we ingest protein from a plant or an animal, you get all 20 amino acids, including the 9 essential. But what matters to your body, and the only thing that matters to the body, is what percentage from 0 to 100 are being absorbed. And this is where I make people mad. Vegan proteins, that plant-based you're talking about, your absorption of those 20 amino acids is only 10% out of 100. 90% is toxic waste that your kidneys have to get rid of. For meat eaters, the carnivores, et cetera, with steak, chicken, liver, fish, trout, swordfish, I don't care, it's 30%, okay? Well, the researchers found a source of protein where the absorption was 91%. And someone made the comment about bodybuilders. Yes, they'll consume anywhere from 1 to 2 grams of protein for every pound they weigh. Now what we know is by doing that, they're destroying their kidneys. Because what's not converted into amino acids is a toxic waste called nitrogen catabolites that the kidneys have to get rid of. Urea, creatine, ammonia, and glucose. Not up for debate. This isn't like, let's have a debate about this. There's nothing to debate. They proved it through blood, stool, urine, and fat analysis in Europe in these studies. It's changed everything that everybody, including athletes, are thinking about working out, and et cetera. See, we keep weighing things based on quantities. Like someone was saying, smaller meals, etc. It's one of the worst things. And then, Debbie, I'm not ignoring you. I promise I'll be back there in just 1 second. And Debbie, or any of you that want some simple answer, this isn't a lotion potion pill. This isn't like 3 recipes to lose weight. All you have to know is this, that the men and women in these medical proven studies were not allowed to exercise. And they lost as much weight in 7 days as 8 weeks of any diet any of you have been on. They lost as much weight in 30 days as people lost in a year. And by blood, stool, urine, and fat analysis, they proved these people lost no water. And instead of losing lean muscle, they gained 6 to 9% lean muscle mass, okay? So the whole idea of a plant-based diet, I'm not opposed to it, but you have to understand you're basically bankrupting your body in terms of amino acids. Or you'd have to eat so many plants, you're going to gain weight. Because the key to life is not how much we're consuming. Number one, it's how much are we absorbing. So if you thought of protein like a walnut shell, all the protein does, it houses those 20 amino acids. When we ingest protein from a plant or an animal, the body breaks it open, extracts the 20 amino acids, and that's what the body can use. But the protein that's not converted into amino acids is turned into those, they're called toxicants, toxic waste. How many of you have ever heard of this before? Anything like this, okay? Now, let's come to costs for you, Debbie, so you don't think that I'm avoiding you. Okay, so a couple of things. So let's take your total food budget. Only 40% of what you're spending now, you'd actually get a food list of proteins, fats, carbs, etc. that they used, same list they use in the medical, in these trials, right? But the other 60% that you're now spending on food that's nutritionally insufficient come from around the world. Most people feel, Debbie, to be honest, whatever their total food budget is, when they allocate only 40% to what they were spending and the other 60%, at most, maybe it's another 50 or 100, or it depends on what your food budget is, in a month. But look at the results. And see, the crazy part is, Debbie, the main reason to do this is not to lose weight. How about blood pressure, blood sugar, cholesterol, triglycerides, all came down dramatically in 30 days. People's hunger came down 41% in 30 days. Inflammation, which plagues all of us, it came down 25% in a month. And in 8 weeks, the visceral fat, that's the fat around the organs, shrank with no exercise by 33% in 8 weeks. Most women, Debbie, in a week lose a whole dress size. This is not a diet. It has nothing to do with dieting. It doesn't even work like that. And these experts, they've done 150 studies over 38 years on every one of these calorie deficit, whether it was paleo or keto or Cornish or time-restricted eating or lose weight for your blood type, the zone diet, Jenny Craig, Weight Watchers, I could go on and on and on. They're saying they've cracked the code. They're saying not only have they found the silver bullet for weight loss and health, but they get the medical proof behind it. None of these other diets have, they didn't initiate on their own. So if there is a study on paleo or keto or time-restricted eating, the people that did they didn't initiate the study. Why? Would you be excited about doing time-restricted eating for a year to lose 12 pounds? Really? And 40% of what you lost was lean muscle mass? Is it me, or is this this is nuts? This is crazy. I mean, again, aren't you a little curious? And yet you can go to that website. Thanks so much. So your point is to eat more nutritious food. Kind of, Bashir, but the problem is if you're trying to do that with food from the United States, let me give you 2 examples. Number one, you need 70 what are called trace ionic minerals, okay? So Bashir, in the best organic you can buy right now in this country, you're going to get 15 to 20 out of 70 of these trace ionic minerals, okay? Number 2, if you're consuming vitamins right now, I will 80% chance or higher that the very vitamins you're taking to be healthy are synthetic vitamins. Well, the problem with that is a synthetic vitamin, and I'm not saying you have this, but this gene, MTHFR gene, is vastly affected by synthetic vitamins, specifically B vitamins. It's called cobalamin. It's part of the thing, okay? But my point is, these researchers found a source 100% pure vitamins from no synthetic anything. Major breakthrough, okay? So it's not just a matter of you making a choice. Yeah, actually the food list we'd give you, you would go and get organic, but only 40% of what you're consuming. The other 60%, like I said, comes from these other 5 foods, because where are you going to get 70 trace minerals? where you're going to get a 91% absorption of amino acids, and where you're going to get 100% natural vitamins derived from whole foods, not synthetically produced. This is such a major breakthrough, I can't even tell you. That's why it has nothing to do with counting calories. Aha. But it has everything to do with what's inside the calories. Does everybody get that? The enemy is, we wrote about it in my first book, Why Diets Fail Us. We said the enemy is not calories. Why are we counting calories? The human body doesn't even know what a calorie is. Calorie is a measurement. So what the researchers did, they cracked the code by doing what? Saying, wait a minute. When we were putting people on diets with synthetic vitamins, with 20% of the amino acids, with 20 minerals, no wonder they lost weight and gained it all back. Because what did they end up doing? They went into starvation mode, not from a quantity, but from a quality standpoint of view, about how much nutrition. Does everyone get this? Are you all zeroing in on this? Yeah, Food from the United. What group of studies are you referring? Okay, Melanie, you can go to the website and you'll see them. There are 7, okay, the new health. By the way, Melanie, these are peer-reviewed human trial studies. It sounds like you're pretty knowledgeable. That's the highest you can go in medical research. These researchers who had done this had done 150 studies over 38 years. They initiated these studies. It's going to change everything. It's going to obsolete every diet out there, because can you imagine let's see, it's called R2M. What's the name? It's called that's what the research is called, R2M, Race to Maintenance. And it's based on really 4 principles. 1, 40% of the food from the grocery store. 60% foods these researchers found fulfillment companies that had gone around the world in the last 25 years to find foods that had tremendous amounts of nutrition, not something you can buy in your corner store, by the way. And then they had them do protein pacing, a completely different way of consuming, and intermittent nutritional, I know it sounds crazy, nutritional fasting. They literally did fasting nutrition. I know it sounds like an oxymoron. Go to the website. It's free to go there. There's no books. None of my books are there. I've written 4 best-selling books with MDs. I've done 20 shows on PBS. I was interviewed on the 4 biggest daytime shows in America and did over 1,500 live lectures around the world, including even in China. And to be quite honest with you, for 20 years, that meant nothing in the medical world until about 15 months ago when these 7 peer-reviewed studies came out. World experts are calling the research and saying you have obsoleted every diet out there. But even Harvard Medical School, let me read it again for some of the new people come. The title of this article was Stop. This is Harvard Medical School. Stop counting calories. The idea of a calorie in, calorie out when it comes to weight loss is not only antiquated, it's just wrong. So they're backing up what I wrote about in my book 14 years ago when I said, why are we counting calories? They went on to say, instead of counting calories, we need to concentrate on what's in the calorie. There's the answer. So if you try to do this with just regular food, even organic, where are you going to get 70 minerals? Where are you going to get a 91% absorption of amino acids? And where are you going to get naturally occurring vitamins? You're not. This is so real. This is a major breakthrough. And the reason that people do synthetic vitamins is shelf life, because they basically deteriorate. Well, this has been, I don't know how many years it took for them to figure this out. Not the research, but they found the sources where they had done this, basically plant-based research to get these, vitamins. But that still is not enough. You see what I'm saying? So it's not just, hey, I'm going to take vitamins and I'm cool. No, you need everything. And I come back to say this: if 80% of Americans are overweight, 50% are obese, and 50% of Americans are pre-diabetic, does anyone really think on this podcast that those work? I mean, maybe you do. Maybe you think that's great. Maybe you think it's great to lose 16 pounds in a year and lose 40% of what you lost was your lean muscle mass. So if you lost 30 pounds, 12 pounds of what you lost was your lean muscle mass. I have another big study over here, actually. This is New England Journal of Medicine. It was a 68-week study. Now, hear me clearly. I'm not against the shots, the GLP-1s. I'm not. They're helping diabetics. They're helping people who are extremely obese, okay? But the 68-week study done by the New England Journal of Medicine on semaglutide, which is one of the GLP-1s, after 68 weeks, people lost 32 pounds. And right in the study, what does it say? Of the 32 pounds they lost, 40% was lean muscle mass. You can do the math, about 14 pounds was lean muscle. Talk to someone that went on the shots and stopped the shots, they're gaining all their weight back. Because again, It works because it's reducing the amount of food. Yes, we're not arguing the fact that if you reduce calories, you're going to lose weight. But what the experts are saying now, wait a minute, we made a mistake. That's what Harvard Medical School is saying. Because every diet out there, if 40% of what you're losing is your lean muscle mass, you're going to gain all the weight back because your lean muscle controls what? Your metabolism, the rate at which you burn calories. Who's telling you this? They're giving you opinions. I mean, I'm talking about all the influences. And with all due respect, I'm not going to disparage you. You can do whatever you want to do. But we're showing you real medical, 100% pure vitamins. No, Debbie, don't buy my books. Go to the website. Okay, Deb. Sorry, I see that. The new health conversation. And the other thing I want to tell everybody, the website, number one, you can't buy, there's no books to buy there. I'm not doing that. We wanted to give you a real medical research site where you could go without fear of someone harassing you. But if you like what you see, because we won't contact you, Deb, let me be clear, we will not contact you. But if you go there and you like what you see, you can sign up for a free personal consultation with one of our coaches. Now, when I say coaches, it's someone who's done the protocol and has helped hundreds of people, but they're not there to sell you or convince you. And we're willing to do that because we don't know anything about you. What if you want to gain weight, which we have people that want to do? What if you're an athlete? We have kids as young as 2 doing parts of this and grandmas in their 90s, because obviously if you could give someone pure, 100% pure, non-synthetic vitamins along with 70 minerals, you're not going to find that maybe you could find it. Very difficult to find. And unbelievably maybe out of reach in terms of an expense, because most people feel that, my goodness, I'm not really spending that much more than I was spending on regular food that is doing something not for me, but to me. Evidenced by 80% of America overweight, 50% obese, 50% pre-diabetic. And earlier today, I wrote for a big study on ABC. They came out and said by 2048, they estimate, this is not my number, they actually said they're projecting that 100% of America is going to be overweight. What? They did a study, the Lancet out of England, that just was completed in March of 2024, just a few months ago. And they said now they estimate 1 billion people worldwide are clinically obese, not just overweight, saying that obesity is the leading form of malnutrition. What? Here's why. They went on to say, well, most people don't understand that being underweight or obesity are both forms of malnutrition because people aren't getting the right amount of vitamins, minerals, botanicals, and calories necessary to preserve human health. Look, our food in this country, whether you want to believe it or not, is becoming more and more nutritionally bankrupt. We wrote about it in our first book, Why Diets Are Failing Us. 200 studies on organic, and I eat organic, but not for the reason you would think. That organic is a little bit better than regular food nutritionally, but the main reason to eat it, it's less polluted, less chemicals in it. I mean, they estimate, I've seen studies where they took an orange from 30 years ago and looked at the nutrition, and today they say you've got to eat about 6 oranges to equal the nutrition of 1 orange from 30 years ago and about a dozen apples. Cornell University did a study on spinach, on the iron levels in spinach from 1953 to today. They estimate they've decreased, you ready for this, by 4,300%. What? That would be the equivalent. You'd have to eat about 40 bowls of spinach today to equal 1 bowl of spinach back in 1953. Do you think it's just a coincidence that 80% of Americans are overweight? Do you think if you've been on diets, it wasn't that you weren't motivated. It wasn't that you wouldn't do it. And look, before anybody gets up in arms and think, oh, I'm not sensitive to this. You don't know me very well. My own mother was morbidly obese my whole life. I loved her. She was friggin' awesome. And 23 years ago, before I became a researcher, and a huge reason why I did become a researcher, she called me up one day and said, Peter, I have one wish in my life. I said, Mom, what's that? She said, do you think I could ever have just 24 hours thin? I said, Mom, that's a good goal, But 6 months later, my mom died of a massive heart attack and stroke and broke my heart. My mother, she did about every diet that was available 23 years ago. She did Jenny Craig and Weight Watchers and Nutrisystem and OptiFast and the grapefruit diet and she would cut diets out of the National Enquirer. She'd cut them out of Reader's Digest. I saw her lose 20, gain 25 back. Lose 25, gain 30 back. My mom is a major, major reason why I'm doing what I do today. See, my mom didn't get a do-over. You know what I would have done to have been on would have been a phone call in those days. There was no internet. There was none of this. To have just been made aware, if my mom could have lost as much weight in 4 days as in a month of dieting, I can't even tell you how excited she would have been. I see it all the time. Well, we have the medical proof. I mean, people lost weight in 7 days. It took 8 weeks on any of these diets. They lost as much weight in 30 days as a year. Well, I just told you, the semaglutide study, 68 weeks, 32 pounds with 40% lean muscle mass. And I'm not saying it's not good, and I'm just neutral. But let's compare it with these 7 peer-reviewed studies. Men and women with no exercise. They lost 16 pounds in 30 days. So I guarantee you, they lost more than 30 pounds in a lot less than 68 weeks. But for some people, maybe that, if that's helping, especially diabetics, you know, we've got Wegovy and we've got semaglutide and we've got, you know, there's a whole bunch of them. I'm not saying they don't work. But again, at the end of the day, it ends up being a diet where it slows down the food passing through the digestive tract. You eat less food, code word, you're consuming less food, but what else are you consuming less of? Nutrition. If I can get anything across to all of you on this podcast today, you can hold on to that belief that somehow lowering calories is the way to lose weight, or you can look at the medical evidence proving that every diet out there is some form of lowering calories. And in every diet, in every study, people end up losing between 25 and 40% of their lean muscle. And when they gain all the weight back, they've measured it. 80% of what they're gaining back is fat. So again, you can believe whatever you want. You can listen to, I see them on social media, medical doctors and chiropractors and dietitians and nutritionists and fitness trainers and weight loss coaches. And now there's new fat loss coaches, I guess. But if any ever showed you, if they ever showed you one shred of medical evidence, we set up this medical website for you to go there and see the medical proof with no harassment. We're not going to contact you. If you go to the New Health Conversation, let me put this up here again for everybody. The New Health, Conversation. So for some, I'm skinny DNA. Okay, I have to go, but I sign up. Oh, wonderful, Debbie. Thank you so much. I love pink dots, by the way. There's no dots in general. I don't know if pink is, I like the red ones and the black ones and, you know, whatever. Look, all I'm saying is for all of you, you have a chance, if you choose, to hit the reset button that my mom never got a chance to do. I mean, I've got a young man right now who his scale at home only went to 600 pounds. So he had to go to a professional place and get weighed. He started 90 days ago. He weighed 650 pounds. The scale's working now. That's all I can tell you. Because if I tell you on here, I could get in trouble. And I don't want to do that. But if you go to that website, what are you going to see? The medical proof from these 7 peer-reviewed human trial studies. You'll see not just before and after pictures, by the way. You'll think we photoshopped them because there are people, men and women, who lost like 100 pounds. They have no loose skin. It's not Photoshop. You'll think it is. I get it. I get it. But the more important point, there's an podcast with the #1 nutritional researcher in the world for 38 years who explains to you why they will never recommend any traditional diet to their patients ever again because of this new medical research. I mean, I had a conversation with him actually this morning, and I said, wait a minute. Do you think you found the silver bullet? He said, we found the silver bullet. We have the medical proof we've been looking for 38 years. They don't sell anything. They have no dog in this hunt. That's what you have to understand. When you're talking about peer-reviewed human trials researchers, they're trying to really prove a new theory. They did all the diets over 30, they put people in 150 studies on about every kind of diet out there, especially Well, every diet out there is some form of lowering calories. Please, anybody put in the chat, is there anybody that can tell me? Okay, Grace, love. All right. Let me review one more time. Okay, so first, Grace, understand that one of the primary reasons to do this is not to lose weight, despite the fact that men and women with no exercise really lost as much weight in a week as 8 weeks of any diet, lost as much weight in a month as a year in any diet, lost no water, and gained 6 to 9% lean muscle mass. I mean, how excited would you be, Grace, if in 7 days you could lose, I'm assuming you want to lose weight, a bad assumption maybe, but let's assume you did. Most women with no exercise allowed, you'll lose a whole dress size in 7 days, not 7 weeks. And it just goes on and on from there. So here's how it came about. The researchers who now have had these 7 peer-reviewed human trial studies of this brand new approach had for 38 years put people on every kind of diet out there. Now what they learned was this. The problem with every diet, when you lower the amount of food people consume, because that's a diet, you also lowered the amount of nutrition. So what the researchers knew, if you dropped the amount of food, you could not drop the amount of nutrition. Now, how do you pull that off? Well, 40% of the food you would consume if you decide to do this is from the grocery store. The other 60% comes from 5 foods that these researchers, they discovered companies that had found these foods from around the world that you're not going to buy from your grocery store. So they had 40% of the food from the grocery store, 60% from the 5 foods around the world. And then they did 2 completely new ways of consuming food that had never been tested before. One is called protein pacing. Simple form, they were having protein, specific kinds of protein. Only 40% of the protein came from the grocery store. The other 60% came from this protein source where the absorption of the amino acids, to give you an idea, steak, chicken, liver, fish, the absorption of 20 amino acids is only 30%. They found a source where the absorption of the amino acids is the only reason you eat protein in the first place was 91%, okay? So protein pacing worked because only 40% of the food was conventional steak, chicken, liver, fish, and the other 60% came from this 91% absorbable protein. But in addition, they also, one of the things we're the most deficient in our diets, including you and me, are trace ionic minerals. There's 70 that we need. In the best organic, you get 20. Well, again, the researchers found a source with all 70 of these trace ionic minerals. The third thing they found was, for the first time ever, a natural source of vitamins. Almost all your vitamins that you are buying now online at superstores, whatever, are synthetic vitamins. The problem with that, number one, the absorption of them is way more difficult and way less than a natural vitamin. So the researchers found a source for 100% natural vitamins, nothing synthetic, okay? And so in addition to doing protein pacing, which I just explained to you, they did something called intermittent nutritional fasting, where in those days, no food from the grocery store. And out of the 5 foods from around the world, they only consumed 4 of those foods. But again, they had the minerals, they had the vitamins. So they were able to fast nutritionally. I know it sounds like a weird concept, but that's what they did. And like I said, men and women, here were the results. They lost as much weight in 7 days. Now remember, these researchers had done 150 studies. So they had comparisons on what people lost in 7 days, or I'm sorry, in 8 weeks. And the weight loss in 7 days was the same as they'd seen in 8 weeks on people. But instead of losing water, which was the case on every diet, or lean muscle, which was the case on every diet, these people lost no water and gained 6 to 9% lean muscle mass. Then they looked at a year of people on this protocol, comparing it to diets that they had researched where people were on a diet for a year. So again, people were losing as much weight in 30 days as in a year of any diet, no loss of water, gaining 6 to 9% lean muscle. Now here's something strange. That was the least important part of this whole thing. Because the other thing that they found was that blood pressure, blood sugar, cholesterol, triglycerides all came down dramatically just in 30 days. And there were diabetics on here that were monitored by their doctors and people with high blood pressure medication. At the end of 30 days, many of those patients, the researchers didn't do this, it was their doctors. They cut their meds by 50% in 30 days. In addition, for the first time ever, they proved that this was lowering inflammation, which you and me and everybody is suffering from, in 25% in 30 days. Hunger, which makes sense, because the body was being nurtured with these tremendous 70 minerals, the natural vitamins, and the 91% absorption of amino acids. Hunger went down 41% in a month. And in 8 weeks, the belly fat, it's called visceral fat, that's around all the organs, it shrank by 33% in 8 weeks with no exercise. Now, again, there were people here that needed to lose, 100 pounds, so they weren't done at the end of 30 days. But you have to understand that there's nothing on earth. Now, again, if you go to the website, it's free to go there, okay? Grace, you can go to the website, The New Health Conversation. Only thing there is the medical proof. We won't contact you. My books are not for sale there. You can't buy them there. We did it on purpose. We want to just give you a safe place to go where you could look at the medical proof, but more importantly, watch the interview with the #1 nutritional researcher. It's a podcast. Oh, I failed to mention also that this protocol called R2M stands for Race to Maintenance. There's a 20-minute video walking you through exactly in more detail what they actually did, including screenshots, et cetera, okay? We're totally transparent. We're not trying to trick you. And then Grace, if you like what you see, then you can sign up for a free, and I mean free personal consultation. And if you do that, here's what I'll promise you. It'll be with one of our coaches who's done the protocol, not somebody on an 800 number that's checking off a list. No. And they've coached hundreds of people in order to be a coach in the first place. The thing I didn't even tell you, the best part. So the coach that would interview would be, if you decide to do it, the coaching's free, period. Because we're teaching you a whole different way of eating, okay? But remember I said 40% of the food from your grocery store, the other 60% are from the 5 foods from around the world. And those 5 foods, the fulfillment companies who supplied them to the medical trials, you would buy it from those fulfillment companies. They offer you a 100% money back guarantee in the first 30 days, no questions asked. They'll even pay return shipping. Now, nothing's 100%. I'd be ridiculous to even say that. I won't. But gosh, it's so rare when anybody wants a refund because the results are so dramatic. So we're teaching you a completely new way of consuming food, but also the food you're consuming with your best intentions at the farmer's market, at organic, etc. You're not going to make up for these other 5 foods that there are still places in the world, rare areas like Tibet in the Himalayas, literally in the Himalayas, where these foods they found are massive amounts of nutrition. And that's why they were able to, essentially in the protocol, people reduce, although it's funny, if you looked at let's just go back to calories for a minute, which doesn't mean anything, but it's only reference you'll understand. When they compared the participants in these medical studies, they compared them to the heart-healthy diet called the Mediterranean diet, all right? Heart-healthy diet's recommended by all it's the #1 diet for 7 years in a row in North America, right? The people that did this protocol consumed more calories than the people in the Mediterranean diet. And yet, the people in the Mediterranean diet, it took them 8 months to lose 10.2 pounds, and 40% of their weight loss was lean muscle. And the thing is, after a year, the people in these studies hadn't gained any of their weight back, and the people in the Mediterranean diet had gained everything back. I'm sure you've all experienced that. Aren't you a little bit frustrated? Aren't you sick and tired of these broken promises? And I don't fault the influences. They're telling you what they know. I always used to open my lectures when not to brag, but I've done 1,500 lectures all over the world, the United States, Canada, Mexico. I've even went to China. They flew me to China where they're having an obesity epidemic. I mean, it sounds crazy, but they are. And I would start with this. I say, what if, and I say this with all due respect, so don't get mad at me, but I say this to all of you. What if everything you thought you knew about diet, exercise, and nutrition was wrong? When would you want to know? How about now? So we have positioned the New Health Conversation to be a place that you could trust for unbiased medical proof. Nothing we share with you is an opinion. I want you to be clear. So everything I'm sharing with you is backed up by the medical proof. And like I said, these researchers are the top weight loss researchers in the world for 38 years. The top. And they're the ones saying they would never recommend any form of a traditional diet again, whether it's paleo or keto or time restricted, all this stuff you're seeing on social media. Cool, it's a free country. You can do, well, I guess we're going around the world as far as I know. But what do you, it's not a pun, what do you have to lose by going to the website and looking at the medical proof? And then, if you like what you see, you can sign up for a free personal, by the way, they do a Zoom call. They screen share, they show you everything. There's no gimmicks. If you're fearful about clicking on that, oh, they're going to harass me. No. We're so busy, we don't need to do that. As a matter of fact, do us a favor. If you go to the website and you sign up for a free consultation, because the coaches will reach out to you, please get back to them. We're not here to convince you. We're here to educate you. And because we're so busy, it's not fair to people that really want to perhaps explore this for themselves. But I think we got a pretty big audience with 80% of America overweight, 50% are obese, and 50% are pre-diabetic. And the part I didn't even share with you is the CDC has come out and said that 92% of Americans are metabolic and healthy with 3 of 5 factors: overweight, high blood pressure, high blood sugar, high cholesterol, high triglycerides. Do you know all 5 of those came down dramatically in 30 days? I keep saying the main reason to do this is not to lose weight. You're going to lose weight probably 12 times faster than any diet. It's going to be healthy weight loss. You're not going to lose lean muscle. That's not the reason to do this. Do you know there's a new term called normal weight obesity for some of you people that may be on here that think you're thin? And what it refers to is when they measure the amount of the visceral fat you have, even though you look thin on the outside, in relationship to how much lean muscle, you literally could be considered obese. These aren't my terms. That's what the scientific community is now saying. There was a big study that said just because you're thin doesn't mean you're healthy. Are we just going to, I mean, I'm not, but you could do whatever. Are you just going to continue to believe, well, I mean, don't believe your lying eyes. Go to Walmart, go to Kmart, go to Costco. Have you ever seen so many people overweight in your lifetime? Look at a picture of someone on a beach in 1970 and compare it to 2004. It's like something's happened. Because in order to protect ourselves from the chemicals that are in our world, we all have this, including me, the TDOS syndrome, toxicity driven by nutritional deficiency, overweight, and stress. We're drinking and breathing and eating chemicals, whether you know it or not. See, we eat whatever they eat if it's a plant or an animal. So if they spray pesticides and herbicides on a plant and we eat the plant, we're getting the herbicides and pesticides. Do you know that 80% of all antibiotics are given to animals? And what are we having now? We're having antibiotic resistance to penicillin and things that used to work. But the bugs they're evolving. This is, I mean, I'm really, I'm big back diet. What are the qualifications? You fella, what are your qualifications? I've been a nutritional researcher for 21 years. I've written 4 best-selling books with the top medical doctors in the world. I appeared on PBS 20 different times. I've been interviewed on the 4 biggest daytime shows in America, and I'm proud to say I've lectured all over the world at hospitals, at universities, etc. I'm regarded my area of excellence. I discovered that there's your qualification. I discovered this medical syndrome. It's a registered trademark, U.S. Patent Office. And if you know anything about registered trademark, it's a really big deal. Because what they do is they literally search the world. Is there anything even similar to this? And especially when it comes to medical syndromes, it's a really, really big deal. But also, you notice I say I'm the researcher of the researchers. It's not my research. So don't think that I'm trying to misrepresent myself. I'm not. But when you do, I mean, one of my colleagues, here are my 4 books. Why Diets Are Failing Us, the TDOS syndrome, which we've been talking about today, the TDOS solutions, and then my 4th book called Your Third Brain, which I wrote with the top oncologist in the world, who's also a molecular biologist. This book got reviewed in the Townsend Letter. The Townsend Letter has been around for more than 50 years. It pretty much goes to all the allopathic physicians in North America. And they said, you talk about qualifications, they said this book, in 50 years of analyzing books and papers, it's going to change the world. That's good enough for me. But again, I'm telling you, I'm bringing you the research. That website that I've shown over and over again is really important. Let me put it up there again because we've got so many comments now. Sorry, I'm a researcher. I'm not good on social media. I'm getting better, I hope. Conversation. So this website that I just posted for you on the other platforms, you can go there. It's free to go there. You'll see all the medical proof. Look, I don't want you to believe Peter Greenlaw. I think I made that clear on this podcast. My job, our job at the new, don't you all think we need the new health conversation? Is the one we have now working with 80% overweight, 50% obese, 50% pre-diabetic, and 9 out of 10 people metabolically unhealthy? Maybe, I cited that study today, came out on ABC saying by 2048, they're estimating, not my estimate, that 100% of America is going to be overweight. So do we need, or should we just keep doing what we're doing, telling people that the way to get healthy is lower calories, lower carbs, macros, all this stuff? None of it works. And the medical proof, when we've got people like Harvard Medical School say stop counting calories, the idea of a calorie in, calorie out to lose weight is not just antiquated, it's just wrong. They said unequivocally that we need to change the narrative and focus on what's in the calorie, not how many calories we're consuming. I wrote this book 14 years ago saying the enemy is not calories. And all my books are written with MDs because I'm not a medical doctor. So I didn't want to say anything in the books that was not medically sound. And now you have to understand we have the only 7 peer-reviewed human trial studies ever done on a completely new approach. The studies that have been done, like the New England Journal of Medicine, for those of you who didn't, in 12 months of lowering calories, people lost in a year 16 pounds. They had another group of people, New England Journal of Medicine study, that did time-restricted eating. You don't eat for 16 hours, you eat for 8, 12.6 pounds in a year. And they went on to say both the calorie-restricted diet group and those with time-restricted eating lost up to 40% of their lean muscle mass. Every diet, that's what's going on. And like I said, all of you can do whatever you want to do. You can. I'm not here to convince you, twist your arm. Like, for example, none of my books are available on that website. We're not doing that. This isn't some infomercial. We're changing people's lives. I've spoken in front of over 500,000 people in the last 21 years, all over the world. And for 20 years, that didn't mean a darn thing, nor should it mean anything to any of you. What matters are these new peer-reviewed human trial studies that you can see for free on the website and an interview with the #1, talk about credibility, #1 nutritional researcher in the world. He's worked with Navy SEALs and Green Berets and NFL football players and CrossFit people, etc. Recognized as the #1 in the whole world. And now they're getting calls about these studies from all over the world, from Harvard Medical School, from Oxford in England, from around the world, saying you've obsoleted every kind of traditional diet. It's not hyperbole. It's not some gimmick. I know you're skeptical. I see the comments. I get it. Okay. Let's see here. Tell me what I should be doing. And okay, so Grace Love. Did I cover that for you, Grace? Please put it in the comment if I did. When I talked about what did they do to create these amazing results, 40% of the food from the grocery store, 60% from these 5 foods from around the world, protein pacing and intermittent nutritional fasting. And if you go to the website, you get to see all the proof. You can sign up for a free consultation. If you do decide to do it, you get a free coach. This is not some simple lotion potion pill. This isn't 3 recipes to lose weight. This is way complicated beyond that. That's why you get a coach for free. Oh, the one thing I forgot to tell you also, you also get a video tutorial each day of exactly what to do. It's all free as part of the protocol. And like I said, the 5 foods, 100% money back guarantee in the first 30 days. What is your risk? What's holding you back? Your skepticism. It's okay. It's not going to change my life. And also, if you go to the website, we have no way to contact you, nor do we want to. We don't want to have to force people, twist your arm, some sales gimmick. See, science doesn't have any emotions, unlike me. It has no agenda. It just is, and it has no prejudice. How many of you really want to change your lives? I mean, you can go on any of these diets and just break your heart. Because as I said, you can lose weight on the Coca-Cola diet. I'm not making this up. You can lose weight on the Dunkin' Donut diet. But what kind of weight are you losing? But the main reason to do it, I've said it over and over again, is for the TDOS syndrome. We're storing these chemicals in our fat cells, whether you want. I mean, it's not up for debate. The major people are now saying that. Let me read you all again about these chemicals. First, let's talk about the Endocrine Society, the largest organization of experts devoted to the research on hormones and clinical practice of endocrinology, says the rise in the incidence of obesity matches the rise in industrialized chemicals. This isn't Peter Greenlaw's opinion, right? And they went on to say these chemicals have a name. They're called obesogens. They said, simply put, obesogens are chemicals that disrupt the function of our hormonal system, leading to weight gain and many of the diseases that curse the American populace. You're storing these chemicals in your body. They're a ticking time bomb. What are you doing about removing them? Nothing if you're on any traditional diet. Zero. Maybe you want to gamble. I'm not gambling with my life, And then let's hear from another one of the experts about these chemicals. Frederick von Saul, professor of biological science at University of Missouri, Columbia. By the way, those chemicals, they call them obesogens. O-B-E-S-O-G-E-N-S, obesogens. You can look it up. Obesogens are acting by hijacking the regulatory systems that control body weight. This presence of obesogens is the first reason that traditional dieting methods have become outdated. Never before have traditional low carbohydrate, low calorie diets been forced to accommodate for the level of synthetic chemicals and the adverse effects they have on the body. The body's attempt to protect itself from the constant assault of synthetic toxins results in the production and storage of fat. What are you doing about obesogens? Ignoring them? Maybe you probably didn't even know about them until today. Maybe some of you did, I don't know. But you have to understand, the medical world never even knew we were storing chemicals in our body until 2005. Mount Sinai Medical School, less than 20 years ago. I know it sounds preposterous. But there are researchers now that this is just unreal what they're saying. And, we talked about the fact that all the influences that I see, due respect, medical doctors, chiropractors, dietitians, nutritionists, workout people, fitness people, weight loss coaches, they're telling you the only way to lose weight is to lower calories. But the medical evidence completely defies that. And again, I keep going back. I can't believe I wrote this book in 2010, but now I've been, validated that I've been, 100% correct. And it really is me. I'm really the author. This is my picture a few years ago, right? But what do you want to do? Do you want to gamble? Are you willing to gamble with your life and pretend that by storing these chemicals, herbicides, pesticides, Scotch-Guard, Teflon inside you somehow aren't going to have an adverse effect on your overall health? The experts are saying it. You do whatever go on a diet, get in your skinny jeans, but is your diet doing something for you or is it something doing to you? The medical evidence is pretty clear that on every diet that's been studied, up to 40% of what you lose is lean muscle mass. And that slows your metabolism down. You can't burn as many calories. You gain all your weight back. But it also interferes with your own immune system's functionality. So, yeah, you may fit in your skinny jeans, but what's the price you're paying? And again, I'm going to say it again. What in the world you have to lose, not a pun, by going to this website. I'm going to put it up there again. The New Health Conversation. It's complete, I suppose. I'm not sure what you're talking about. Anyway, the point is that there now is this major, miraculous, revolutionary, whatever kind of breakthrough you want to call it, where you're literally able to you're literally able to change the trajectory of the rest of your life. That's dumb. You have to count calories. Well, yeah, I'm saying counting calories, not me, even Harvard Medical School says stop counting calories. It's the most ridiculous thing because the human body doesn't even know what a calorie is. So why are we counting? Why are we going over why are we going over the same ground that's already been proven to be, completely obsolete, right? So my point is that you can do whatever you want to do. It's not my responsibility. My responsibility is to give you access to the medical proof for you to then make a decision. Do you want to sign up for a free personal consultation or not? That's completely up to you. It's not up to us. I don't know how I can tell you any more unless you think I'm lying, and I wouldn't have any reason to do that. I'm building a pretty big following on social media, so it doesn't serve me because I could be, if I'm telling you to go to that website and we contact you, you can certainly put it in the comments, et cetera. But we don't have to trick you. We don't want to trick you. We want to help you. So does anybody have any more questions about, in summary, these 7 new peer-reviewed human trial studies published in some of the biggest medical journals in the entire world, where this new protocol called R2M, not a diet, not about counting calories, completely different, where people lost as much weight men and women, lost as much weight in a week, 7 days, as in 8 weeks of any diet. They lost as much weight in 30 days as people lost in a year. It was not water weight, they proved it. And instead of losing lean muscle mass, they increased their lean muscle mass 6 to 9% with no exercise. Who, what, where, when have you ever heard of or seen anything like that? And yet on the website, you see all the proof, the medical proof, not opinions, not an infomercial. There's nothing to buy on that website, nothing, zero. Because again, we couldn't even advise you when we don't know anything about you. Do you want to gain weight? Do you want to lose? We got kids as young as 2 and grandma's 90. Well, I guess grandmas can be younger than 90, but and like I said, most women lose a whole dress size in 7 days. Don't let your skepticism limit your quality of life potential. That's what it comes down to. Honestly, what do you have to lose by going to that website? To see all the medical proof. And no one's going to bother you, no one's going to harass you, etc. And then, and only then, if you like what you see, you can sign up for a free personal consultation. What am I missing here? What's bad about that? Other than your skepticism holding you back, right? So, some funny comments. Music, the guys, YT, music, keto. I don't know I'm not sure what that question was really about. So all I can tell you is that it certainly is something that we desperately need as a world. If we've got, not if, they say, there's 1 billion people worldwide clinically obese, making obesity the leading form of malnutrition, saying that most people don't know, I didn't, that being underweight and overweight are both forms of malnutrition because people aren't getting the right amounts of vitamins, minerals, botanicals, and the types of calories needed to be healthy. I applaud you for doing organic, but 200 studies prove that organic is nutritionally, it's a little better than regular food. And the main reason to do organic, and I do organic, is because it's less polluted. In other words, less herbicides and pesticides. But it might shock you to know. Oh, you found it, Mr. Grimm? Did you find it? You can see it right there above. I'll put it under your name again. The new health. If I could just spell correctly, everybody bear with me here. I'm a researcher. I'm not yet. I'm not a. Okay, let me put this in here. The new health on, this is the website that I'm talking to you all about, the new health conversation. Okay, hold on. The new okay, I even spelled it right. So, Meester Grimm, if you found it, there it is. You know, I feel like you have every right to be skeptical. I'm in violent agreement with you. If we were just talking about another kind of diet variation. You know, the people that are promoting something like time-restricted eating, for example, if the basic principles that we wrote about in Why Diets Are Failing Us really were pretty simple. If you were relying on just lowering calories, and I don't see the body can't count calories, doesn't care about calories, but let's say you went with that approach. The enemy is not the calorie. It is not. It's not about how many calories you consume. It's about how much nutrition you consume. That's the secret to this new R2M protocol, where the researchers, after 38 years, figured out that any form of diet where you limited or reduce the amount of the quantity of the food you were consuming, it would trigger starvation mode in the body, which it did. And people lost weight, and then, of course, it stopped. They plateaued. They come off the diet, they gain everything back. Because listen, how many of you remember The Biggest Loser from, maybe, gosh, it's been like 10 years ago, probably? There were people in there that lost like 150 pounds. But every person in a follow-up study, this was about 3 years ago, they gained all their weight back. And when they measured their metabolism, which is, you know, the rate at which you can burn calories, actually when you're resting, it's called your basal metabolic rate, it was reduced by about 30%. So even when they went back to eating normally, they gained all their weight back. According to all the studies in here, didn't matter what the diet was, people were losing up to 40% of their lean muscle mass and gained back all the weight because they couldn't burn as many calories. So my point is, if you're serious about isn't our health, well, let me say this, isn't our health our wealth? Is there a more important investment that you could ever make than in yourself, right? Haha, that's social media's, that's true. If you, sadly, if you looked at, you know, the victims in the Second World War, they were basically skin and bones, because what happens that's what anorexia is. Many of you probably remember the wonderful singer Karen Carpenter. She was anorexic. And what happened for her was that once she went through all her muscles first, then all of her fat. Well, now the body's out of the sources for fuel. What's left? The organs. In essence, her body began to eat her heart, and she died of a heart attack. Well, when you're going on a diet, you're doing what's called catabolic metabolism, whether you know it or not. Your body, in order to make up for the lack of nutrition, goes in panic mode, and it goes looking for it. And where does it find? Where's the richest part of nutrition in our body? In our organs, our brain, kidney, liver, heart. But where does it start? It starts first in our muscles. Thank goodness. I don't know if that's good or bad, but it literally converts our muscles into carbohydrates for fuel, and then the body, because that's so inefficient, doesn't have a choice. It slows down your metabolism, the rate at which you can burn calories when you're resting. And the other thing it does that's even worse, it also interferes with your own immune system. I can tell you this. Sadly, in 2010, I lost my younger brother to kidney cancer. My brother was a very famous news anchor. I loved him. He was awesome. But in 2010, he was diagnosed with kidney cancer, and in 8 months from the time he was diagnosed until he died, when he died, he weighed about 112 pounds. I mean, I could carry him in my arms like a baby. He wasted away to nothing. I didn't know anything about, you know, the importance of losing lean muscle. I can tell you this, that I work with in writing this book, one of the top oncologists in the world, and that's one of the things he taught me. He said, you know, in cancer patients, one of the things we want to guard against the most is prevent them from losing lean muscle mass, because as they lose lean muscle mass, it also compromises their own immune system. I mean, I just think that I see all these well-meaning people on social media that they're all telling you, they're giving this mantra, but they don't have any medical proof about what they're telling you to do. I was, a while ago, I talked about the fact that I met this, I didn't, but one of my coaches encountered a woman who had spent, I think in 6 months, something around like $16,000. And in 6 months, she lost 16 pounds. And now, as a matter of fact, she's plateaued. She can't lose any more weight. And she somehow got a hold of one of my coaches. And it's just what she ended up being on was basically a diet. It worked for a while because she did lose 16 pounds, but then she plateaued. I know a lot of you have suffered the same fate, right? Let's see, is there anything? Found it. So if anybody else would like, wow, I can't believe I've gone almost 2 hours. Whew. I guess time flies when you're having fun. And I want to assure everyone that my role here is to make you aware of what's available. So before I close out this podcast today, let's review one more time. So what we talked about was why diets are failing us. We talked about the TDOS syndrome, where we're storing chemicals inside of our body. And we've been talking about the solution, TDOS solutions, and then my fourth book called Your Third Brain. Now, why are we talking about Your Third Brain? Because one of the studies that was published in Nature Communications, which is the #1 journal in the world, specifically that study focused on what's called our microbiome. And again, we wrote the definitive book on the microbiome, where the gut flora, the diversity, meaning the variations in the different types of, bacteria, et cetera, in the gut, increased massively just in 30 days. And in 8 weeks, people who had many, many challenges. You can read about them on our website for free. These researchers were astounded. And to get published in Nature Communications, that's the top of the heap. The other 6 studies were still in very credible, like the Obesity Journal, Nutrients, Nature. I can't remember all the 7 titles we wrote about in our book. And imagine, that's why I keep saying, don't do this to lose weight. That's a throw-in. That's like the least important part of the whole thing. I know it excites you because of that number on the scale. Again, I'm not going to say that, ladies who lose, a dress size in a week aren't excited or more, okay? But what about our quality of life potential? What about our wellness potential? That's the thing that should matter to all of us. How about your energy? How about your stress levels? You know how many people tell me about how they can't sleep at night? Yeah, because their body's telling them something's wrong, because they're storing these chemicals in their bodies. They have a name. They're called obesogens. They're herbicides and pesticides and Scotchgard and Teflon and all these other chemicals. We have 80,000 chemicals in commercial use in North America. 2% have ever been tested for what they do to us. That's 1,600 out of 80,000. We use over 10,000 chemicals in the production of food. About 300 have been tested for what they do to us. And I'm not talking about, salmonella and, some of the other things. They did a study on municipal water supplies. 10,000 local municipal water supplies were analyzed. On average, they found in every one between 400 and 600 chemicals, things like drugs too, like Lipitor and Zoloft, and they even found birth control pills in water supply, because the water, they're set up to die with, Giardia and things like that, not to be screening for, because people don't finish their prescription and flush antibiotics. Really? So my point is that, just like the headline, I just saw that. I didn't realize that the headline's there. You should stop counting calories according to Harvard Medical School. Yes, they said calories in, calories out is antiquated. It's not only antiquated, it's just wrong. I guess I was right 14 years ago when I said the enemy's not calories. It's what's in the calorie that's the only thing that matters. If I get anything across to all of you today, it's that, a totally different approach. So that's why when somebody tells me, well, the only way to lose weight is to lower the calorie count, with all due respect, sorry, you're wrong. Now, if you're going to lower, because why are you even counting calories when the body doesn't know what a calorie is? Now, if we talk about, okay, we're going to lower the amount of food we're consuming, but we're not going to lower nutrition, show me how you do that. That's what the researchers did. Because they only relied on 40% of the food from North America and 60% from these foods. Dense nutrition from around the world. So, like I said, I'm approaching 2 hours, but hopefully this has been valuable to any of you on here. Are there any last questions that anyone would like to ask me before I end this this podcast? Yeah, I'm live. Went over that. Okay, the guys, YouTube, music. I'm a doctor. Well, great. I think you'll appreciate the fact that when we got 7 peer-reviewed human trial studies, that should pique your curiosity. No diet out there on their own have peer-reviewed human trial studies. And when you're talking about getting published in Obesity Journal, or more importantly, in Nature Communications, which you know as a doctor, that's the gold standard for medical research, I would hope that would pique your interest and that you would go and see the proof at the new, you can see it there, the new Health Conversation. It's in several different places for everybody. We're totally transparent. We're offering you an incredible opportunity to go see the medical proof or not. So so just the name of the book, please. Okay, can you read the title, Why Diets Are Failing Us? But here's the weird part. I don't want you to buy my books. What I encourage you to do, we set up a free medical, and here's why. This book was written 14 years ago. Now there's a couple updates to it, but on the website is the newest, latest, greatest information. Most importantly, there's an interview for you with Kyra, I guess it is, Kyra Temper, with the #1 nutritional researcher in the world. There are the before and after pictures, not just of the weight loss, but the medical improvements. And if you like what you see, and if I'm pronouncing your name wrong, I apologize in advance. Kyra, I think it is. You can go to that website. You can see everything I've been talking about, medically backed. And if you like what you see, scroll down to the bottom. It says schedule a free personal consultation. That's with one of our coaches, not somebody in an 800 number in a room that's checking things off. People that had to be qualified. They had to have done the protocol and coached numerous people before they actually became coaches. The coaching's free. And what you missed was, Kyra, what? Yeah, well, I'm glad I didn't butcher it too badly. Okay, but anyway, Kyra, the idea is to give you an opportunity to talk about what are your goals. Because Kyra, honest to God, we don't know anything about you, right? What if you want to gain weight? What if you want to lose weight? What if you're on any kinds of medications? Maybe you want to sleep better at night. Maybe you want more energy. I mean, I'm working with a young man right now. He started at 650 pounds. Okay. I've got I have a guy that had a heart transplant. We've had, kidney transplant. I mean, and again, our whole website is for educational purposes only. We're not trying to treat, diagnose, make medical claims whatsoever. But the peer-reviewed human trial studies, they stand on their own. The results of those, where men and women, Kyra, to give you an idea, with no exercise lost as much weight in 7 days as 8 weeks of any diet you've ever been on. Men and women with no exercise lost as much weight in 30 days as it took people a year on diets. None of it was water weight. The researchers made sure they checked that. And also, instead of them reducing their lean muscle mass, which is the case on any diet you've ever been on, Kyra, is they gain 6 to 9% lean muscle mass. It's all there for you to see. There's nothing to buy there. Because the idea is we want to give you the comfort level to see the medical proof. And then, and only then, if you want, you can sign up for a free consultation. I promise you, our coaches are not there to sell you. Our coaches are not there to convince you. They're there to answer your questions and say, okay, how could this protocol, which is called R2M, stands for race to maintenance, how can it work for you based on what you want to accomplish? My gosh. So what you missed was 40% of the food you'd get a grocery list you'd buy from the grocery store. But the other 5 foods literally come, the researchers found fulfillment companies who for 25 years had literally searched the world for food sources with tremendous amounts of nutrition, not tremendous amounts of calories, from around the world, from Russia, Mongolia, from Tibet and the Himalayas, South America, New Zealand. And those 5 foods during the first 30 days, the fulfillment companies who supplied them to the studies that they did, they offer you 100% money back guarantee in the first 30 days. You get free coaching and it's 100% money back guarantee. Now, granted, the food you're buying from the grocery store, they're probably not going to give you a refund on that. So your only risk is you don't go there, or you do go there, you look at the medical proof, and you don't sign up for a free consultation. You'll never know that this could change the whole rest of your life. And the main reason to do it, as I was just explaining, is not to lose weight. That's a throw-in. It's to get to combat this medical syndrome called TDOS, toxicity driven by nutritional deficiency, overweight, and stress, that me and you and everybody in the world has. I don't know if you all, including you, Kyra, saw the movie Dark Waters. It came out a few years ago. It was really about DuPont and Teflon. They said, right, in true story, that 99% of the people in the world have Teflon in their bodies. So it's not like there's a discussion or a debate if we're storing chemicals in our body. That's now been proven, really was discovered only in 2005, Mount Sinai Medical School in New York, that we're storing herbicides and pesticides and Scotchgard and Teflon and cleaning supplies in our fat cells in our body. And in the studies where they did blood, stool, urine, and fat analysis, they proved that this was removing, assisting our own body's doing it. Because see, this is something that I think is cool. Every night when you go to bed, as long as you don't eat too late, once you fall asleep, your body suspends digestion and turns on the natural detox mechanism of your body. It has a fancy name. It's called autophagy. I call it taking the trash out. The body's getting rid of the dead cells and the stuff that you've been accumulating, all right? It happens every single night. Essentially what the researchers did in simple form, they were able to replicate that through something called intermittent nutritional fasting, where they got the body essentially to shut down digestion for the most part. But instead of the body going in starvation, which happens on a fast in about 22 to 23 hours, they were able to support the body with nutrition that had very little impact on digestion. And that's why this worked. See, if you fast for more than 24 hours, whatever they're telling you, the evidence is clear. You're really, after that point when your body's, see what happens on a fast or on intermittent nutritional fasting like this, it takes you about approximately 22 hours to burn through the excess, it's called glycogen, code word sugar, stored in your liver. Well, at 22 hours, once your body's out of sugar, simple carbohydrates, whatever, your body only has 2 choices. My right hand is muscle, my left hand is fat. On all these diets, whether it's especially on a fast, what does your body do? It ignores the fat and burns the muscle. This is not something we're making up. We have medical proof to back up everything I'm telling you. That's why that site is so important, for you to go there and not be harassed, not being given you some sales gimmick. We're talking about changing people's lives by giving them a completely different source of food, but also to consume it in a totally different way. So 5 days a week, while you're doing the aggressive part of this, you do the protein pacing, where you're having protein about every 3 or 4 hours over the course of 12, 14, 15 hours. 40% of your protein comes from the grocery store. The other 60% from these protein sources that they found that had a 600% higher absorption of amino acids than steak, chicken, liver, fish, etc. So this was like a scientific breakthrough that the researchers who had done 38 years of research on 150 studies on every diet out there, they really invented a completely different new thing. It didn't really have a time. They call it R2M, race to maintenance. So it's not paleo or keto or Mediterranean or fasting or Cornish or diet. I mean, any Jenny Craig wrote, it's totally different. It's going to change. I mean, the experts are saying it's going to change the world. And even Harvard Medical School, I know I've read this, it's in this book. I read it a couple times that Harvard Medical School said, stop counting calories. They said the idea of a calorie in, calorie out is not only antiquated, it's just wrong. This is Harvard Medical School. So someone's coming on and telling me the only way to lose weight is to lower calories? Really? I'm kind of going with Harvard Medical School. With all due respect to whoever that was. Look, I'm doing these podcasts. I'm trying to do 2 or 3 a day. Normally, the first one I do is about 11 in the morning, then mid-afternoon, and then, actually sometimes even later than this. It's only, it's quarter of 5 Eastern Standard Time. I'm in Colorado, so it's only 3:42 in the afternoon for me. You'll know it's live. I mean, this is not pre-recorded. But I just would say to all of you again, what do you have to lose by going to that free medical website, see the proof? If you want, sign up for a free consultation or not. But if you don't do this, what are you going to do? I'd love for any of you to put it in the chat. Seriously, I'd love you to put it in the chat. What do you think? Because whether it's Kyra or it's any of Mester Grim or NVM, if 80% of Americans are overweight and 50% are obese and 50% are pre-diabetic, okay, so what are you going to do? And again, the most important thing, what are you doing about assisting your own body in removing the toxins? Because no carnivore, paleo, Mediterranean, Cornish, none of those have ever been shown to do anything except assist you in losing weight, which 40% of it is your lean muscle mass, which slows your metabolism down and impacts your immune system. Okay, so what would you do? I'm just curious. I'm not trying to be difficult. I'd really like to know if anybody would put it in the chat for me. Yeah, the new health, no, not connection, conversation. Let me type it for you again, Kyra, I'm sorry. The new health conversation. Kyra, don't you think we need one based on what I'm sharing with you? Yeah, the new health conversation, not connection, right? I don't know, maybe somebody else has that, but look, Kyra, I mean, you came on late, and I'm not telling you, any of you to impress you. Someone said, what are your credentials? Well, I've written 4 best-selling books with some of the top medical doctors in the entire world, okay? I've done 20 shows on PBS. You don't get on PBS if you have some kind of show. Well, and again, 20 times, so I must have done something right. Not doing infomercials, by the way, okay? I've been interviewed on the 4 biggest daytime shows in America. And before COVID, I'd done over 1,500 live lectures all over the world, including even in China. And here's something that I want to share with all of you, and maybe you won't care about this. I've flown over 2 million miles on United Airlines. I spent over 10,000 hours in research. But the thing I'm the most proud about, in the 1,500 lectures that I did all over the world, I paid my own airfare, my own car rental, my own hotel, and in many cases, I paid for the hotel rooms in which I spoke because I believe that it's this important, the new health conversation. My goal when I started 21 years ago, because I had a life-changing experience. I'll share it with all of you. Now remember, it's my story. So I'm not making any medical claims, curing. I'm not saying this would happen to you, but it happened to me. I walked in my doctor's office a little over, it was 21 years ago, May. So it's a little more over 21 years now, right? So 21 years and 2 months or whatever it's been. And for my yearly physical, my doc comes in, throws my chart down, says, Peter, if you don't do something radically different today when you walk out of here, you got an 85% chance of a stroke or a heart attack within 18 months. You don't think I was scared? My cholesterol was 400. My triglycerides were 300. And my risk of a heart attack was 85% out of 100. And I was 40 pounds overweight. So the first 8 weeks, I listened to my doctor, which is what you do, right? Eat diet, exercise, and statins to lower cholesterol. Come back 8 weeks later, and I've lost 8 pounds. So they were pleased about that in the day, 21 years ago. Now it'd be like a joke compared to what I know, but that's immaterial. But my cholesterol only came down 15 points, and he said, "Look, I can't give you any more stat." And that same day, whether you call it fate, coincidence, I ran into a friend of mine who had played professional football for the Oakland Raiders, and he turned me on to this. It was the rudimentary start of what evolved over 21 years. I went on it. I lost 8 pounds in 48 hours. I lost 12 pounds in 9 days, 20 pounds in 18 days. I lost 30 pounds in a month. I lost 40 pounds in 7 weeks, and had follow-up with my doctor. This time he comes in and tells my chart nurse, said, "Peter, you trying to kill yourself?" I said, "What are you talking about?" He said, "What am I talking about?" He said, "The lab made a mistake." I said, "How so?" Because he said, "How much Lipitor are you taking?" I said, "Doc, I haven't touched that stuff in 2 months." I'm not suggesting any of you do that. Don't hear me say that. I don't want to get in trouble. So what I'm telling you, just telling you what I did. And anyway, he said, "Well, your cholesterol's gone from 400 to 120. Your triglycerides gone from 300 to 30. You've lost 40 pounds, and your heart attack risk has dropped from 85 to 15. The lab must have made a mistake. I've never seen anything like this in 20 years of medicine." I said, "You're not retesting me." Again, you can call it fate, whatever. That same day, I ran into another friend of mine who's a gastroenterologist, and I hadn't seen her in like 8 weeks, and she was acting really weird. And I said, "What's up?" She said, "Can I ask you a question?" And I said, "What?" And she said, "You've lost all this weight. Do you have the big C?" I laughed and I said, "No." And I told her what I was doing. She said, "You won't believe this, but I've been treating all of my gastrointestinal patients with this same, detox." And the man that invented it, the chemist, is coming to Denver in 2 weeks to meet with 20 of us physicians. You can come and get a free steak dinner. You'll be the only lay person there. I went, told my story, and the man who invented this, he invented it like 25 years ago, said, "Look, I know I've invented something that's going to change the world, and I need someone like you to tell the world about it." So the person that was saying, "What are your credentials?" I told the chemist at that point, I said, "Look, I was a finance major in college. I worked on Wall Street." I said, "Heck, I don't even know what a calorie is." He said, "I'll teach you." And that's how this whole thing started. So I was literally taught by what's believed to be probably the world's greatest nutritional chemist of the 20th century, who sadly died a couple of years ago before these peer-reviewed human trial studies came out. But that's what started my career. So maybe that answers a question for some of you, but I don't believe I'd be here today if it wasn't for this. And I'm not suggesting for any of you that, I'm not going to make any medical claims. That's crazy. So we're not curing, treating, diagnosing any medical things at all. And if you are on a high blood pressure medication or you are on any drugs, we always have your doctors monitor you. Very important. I don't play a doctor on TV. I'm the researcher of the researchers. But I've brought a voice to these world-class researchers. So when I'm speaking to you, it's from what they've taught me. That's why, again, we wrote 4 best-selling books, all with medical doctors, MDs. And this 4th book, like I said, Your Third Brain, with one of the top oncologists in the world. One of my colleagues is the geneticist who discovered the gene that causes aging. And again, I'm not telling you that to impress you. I'm just saying that I've been blessed and so lucky to be privy to seeing this revolutionary approach come to life, backed by these peer-reviewed human trial studies. So what I took 21 years ago, these researchers really enhanced it with the way they approached it and what they did, et cetera, and just have taken this to new heights that nobody has ever seen before. So again, I would encourage anybody who's really interested in this, someone helped me out there, the New Health Conversation. So you all understand, you can sign up for a free personal consultation. That site, the only thing there is the medical proof. There's nothing to buy. There's no one there. We won't contact you. The only way we can contact you is if you contact us by filling out the form for the free personal consultation or not. That's up to you. So again, I am going to close it out now. But is there anybody that would like to put any other questions for me in the chat? Because pretty much everything is really on the website. And then once you decide for yourself that it's, you really want to know more, sign up for the free consultation with the coaches. And like I said, only 40% of the food you're going to buy on this comes from the grocery store. The other 60% come from these 5 foods from around the world. And those 5 foods that you'll be getting from these fulfillment companies, they offer you a 100% money back guarantee in the first 30 days. No questions asked. They'll even pay return shipping because nothing's 100%. But I'll tell you what, this is probably 99%. So is there anybody else that would like to ask me a question before I close out this podcast? Going once, going twice, 3 times, going 4 times. I'm still waiting to see if anybody wants to, ask me a question. No? Well, then I want to wish all of you a great rest of your day, wherever you are, or night, depending what part of the world maybe you're in. And I would really ask a big favor. If you like what you heard, you can go to my TikTok and like my site. It's the New Health Conversation, the same as you can see it right there, the New Health Conversation. That's my site on TikTok as well. And maybe let any of your friends know that, like I said, I'm doing typically like 11 Eastern, probably 2, 3 o'clock Eastern, and then probably 6 o'clock. This is a little bit early for me today, just because I don't know why. I just had a really busy day and just decided, but I've made this a really long one for all of you. Oh, thank you, Alan. That's really nice of you. And I always love it. And I know people get gun shy or they're skeptical or think for some reason I'm going to, bark at them, whatever. That's not my purpose. My purpose is to give you irrefutable medical evidence to prove to you that there really is hope out there. Because I know that some of you are really suffering in what I call quiet desperation, like my mom. I shared that story with some of you. Maybe some of you came on late, that my mother was morbidly obese my whole life, and I never knew her thin and never knew her healthy. One of the major reasons why I became a researcher, and my own crisis that I was in, right? But 23 years ago, she called me up and said, Peter, I have one wish in my life. I said, Mom, what's that? She said, I would give anything if I could just spend 24 hours thin. I said, well, Mom, that's really something. Well, 6 months later, massive heart attack and stroke. And I can remember like it was yesterday, because I'll never forget, it was like in July. And I live in Colorado and my mom lived in Maine. And, my brother called me and said, listen, Mom's had a massive heart attack and stroke. You better get back here. So I scrambled, got on the first plane that I could fly from Denver to Maine in this case. And I arrived and got a rental car, and I'll never forget, I drove to the hospital, and when it was like, late afternoon, and, some of these things, stick with you forever. And my brother he wasn't actually there at the time. And so I just remember going in and, asking for my mom's room. And I just remembered, how hospitals, all those long hallways. And for whatever reason, I was like the only person in the hall. And I just remember thinking the only sound I could hear was literally the sound of my own footsteps kind of echoing. And I walked down this really long hall, and there was a room, and I'll never forget it. I came to this door. I can feel it like it was yesterday. I looked in, and there was my mom. Only it wasn't my mom. I mean, she was there, hooked up to a ventilator, and it was really, really hard, And I just thought, all she wanted was just 24 hours thin. Not a week, not a month, not a year. You see, my mom did about every diet that you've ever heard of. She would cut diets out of Reader's Digest, the National Enquirer. She did the grapefruit diet, the cabbage soup diet. She did Jenny Craig, Weight Watchers, Nutrisystem, OptiFast. I mean, 23 years ago, whatever was out there, she tried. My mom didn't get a do-over, but for some of you, you could get a do-over if you choose. I mean, if I could have just have known about it, had been on a phone call about this miraculous breakthrough. I don't know. I can't prove it, of course. I really do believe that it's my belief. I don't have any proof that my mom dieted herself to death. And man, she would be loyal to those diets. I mean, she'd measure, weigh food, do all the things that probably a lot of you are doing now. But it didn't work. So it wasn't too hard to come up with my title years later, Why Diets Are Failing Us. My mom was she was pretty young. She was like in her late 60s when she died. And it was just something I hope none of you ever have to experience. But the thing you should be most concerned about is for yourself. What if you don't go to their website? Because if you go to the website, we're not going to contact you. We don't need to do that. We're not there to convince you. I know this sounds too good to be true. It does. But our modus operandi is to help you see something that you're not being shown now. At least I can't find anybody on social media of the medical doctors and the chiropractors and the nutritionists and the dietitians and all these people that are showing you one shred of medical evidence. And that's why we wanted to create that free website. So you wouldn't have to feel intimidated. You wouldn't have to feel pressured. And if only you can contact us, we're not going to contact you. So, I hope I've made a difference. I hope I've piqued your curiosity. I hope you will take us up on the offer to go to the New Health Conversation, and then, and only then, if you decide, set up for free consultation and see. You really don't have much. Well, I guess 40% of the food from the grocery store, they're not going to give you a 100% a refund. But the 5 foods, 60% of what you're going to consume. Look, this replaces about 57 meals in a day. Somebody told me today that a regular salad in New York City, it's just a normal restaurant, it's like $20. Some of these complete meals with massive amount of nutrition that you would get are like $4.25. Do you know how many salads you'd have to eat to equal the nutrition? You'd be talking about thousands and thousands and thousands of calories. So when people ask me about the cost, I'm going, relative to what? We all see the shock at the grocery store. Imagine a complete meal for $4.25 with all 70 minerals, with natural vitamins, with like a 91% absorption of amino acids. Wow, that shocked me today. I mean, I guess I shouldn't be surprised. This is a horrible example, but someone was telling me like a Big Mac in Los Angeles is like $20. What? I'm not advocating Big Macs, don't believe me, okay? But the other thing is not that I wouldn't ever have one again. R2M stands for race to maintenance. The idea is to get you to maintenance and then teach you how to stay there. Like me, I lost 40 pounds 21 years ago. I've kept it off for 21 years. You think I'm excited? I'm really excited. So again, yeah. So thank you. Have a good night. You too. So good day, everybody, as Paul Harvey used to say, because I don't know what time zone you're in. So I'm gonna end this podcast now, and I hope you will go to my TikTok site. I hope you'll make a note of the New Health Conversation, and we'll look forward to some of you getting a free consultation. Okay? Have a good one, everybody. Bye-bye.